Well, it's interesting. Somebody actually just sent it to me today to review the case and sent me a link to it to see what my thoughts on it were, and they kind of congratulated me for being left off the list that was involved in the case. And in the list, and this is the interesting thing about this is a family court decision between two parties, a man and a wife. And what it was is it ended up being a 185-page lambasting of the Freeman movement, where this particular justice allegedly goes on to name about 8 or 9 of the most prominent members of what they call the Freeman movement in Canada, and then goes on about a 170-page rant about what nonsense this stuff is, as basically reasons for his decision in ruling against the man and in favor of the wife. These are starting to become a lot more prevalent now, where these reasons for decisions are really getting into these attacks against what they call the Freeman movement, and you can tell the government's starting to get a little worried about this, because every single one of us has poked our heads up now and is starting to fight back against this system. They're trying to smash us down now. They're trying to give people like 4 times the sentences they should normally get, just to try to say, hey, if you even come into my courtroom and try making these Freeman concept arguments, we're going to crush you far worse than we would have had you even dared bring that topic up. And these reasons for decisions, like we just saw in this Alberta court case here, that actually names parties that have nothing to do with this court case as being alleged gurus in Canada teaching this nonsense, and it actually does say that in there, teaching this nonsense and making money off selling DVDs and everything else. You can tell they're actually starting to get worried to the point now where they actually need to pay special attention to really like ramping up the personal attacks against people and really making people second guess going into the courts and wanting to bring these arguments up. So that there's a link to that on there, the albertacourts.ab.ca, and then the decision is there. I didn't even bother reading past about page 3 because of just what utter nonsense it is. For the people that are listening that's going to go through and actually read this case, I'd just like to point out also that people have to remember that these decisions that are being published by the courts, these reasons for decisions, these 180-page papers, and any decision you've ever received in court, they are not written by the judges that heard your case. They have teams of lawyers in the background, and this has been confirmed, that go through the case, listen to the transcripts, and then basically write the paper and write the decision that their paid frontman. And if people want to know what a judge is, all they have to do is look up the word supernumerary in Roman civil law and find out what a supernumerary is, and you'll find out he's a paid actor. He's just a paid actor who's wearing a black robe, so you can't see him in light. He doesn't really exist. I call them vampires, really. What are you trying to do? Pretend to be a vampire? What do you're wearing a cape with a friggin' a white piece of cloth around your neck. Give me a break. But these people are just paid actors who read scripts. They're given scripts to go in and read by all the lawyers that work in the background. So that's what these decisions are, and they're really trying to concentrate now on making people believe that these Freeman arguments are nonsense. It makes me wonder why they're actually more so attacking those people than anybody else, and why they would be mentioning specific names. Like they want people, like it's almost like they're, if you listen to one of these guys, you're going to go to jail if you make these arguments. And I mean, shit, half the people in Canada involved in the common law movement or the Freeman movement probably go off material that eventually comes through one of these guys. So I think that's why they're trying to go with figureheads now to say, don't follow anything that these guys say, because, in this family court ruling. And I'd like to add to that also, by the way, that I did read a little more, obviously, but I skipped through in the appendix like you. The reason for the decision really had nothing to do with the Freeman concepts at all, but they don't have to talk about that. They really wanted to big up the alleged judge's own personal opinion of why the defendant actually failed in his arguments, and they really want to blame the Freeman movement. So I think if we were as marginal and as incorrect as they claim, they would not have to make a big deal about this. So I smell a lot of fear from the court system right now.
I kind of share your opinion on that as well. But nevertheless, it did mention there that the penalties would be severe if somebody was to mention that what he referred to as non-lawful jargon. I think I read that somewhere in the document. Of course, what they do is lawful, but what the Freeman movement does is not. That's how they want us to believe. But do you think they can actually do that? Because if a lot of people are easier to believe the fear aspect of things than the truth aspect of things. And so do you think that they can actually pull that off by penalizing people and scaring people from going the free man route?
Oh, they do. I personally know people that have received double sentences for even raising that argument, because most people are so close, but they're missing the real strong points they really needed to get into, like the whole theory of challenging the court's jurisdiction. I mean, that's something we remind me to talk about that later. That I tried to correct with people. I mean, a year and a half ago, even 2 years ago, when I first started talking with people, and I would mention you can't challenge the court's jurisdiction. You can't. The jurisdiction, like, it's their courtroom. You can only challenge the jurisdiction of the person bringing you there, and the law is being heard. That's what you challenge, not the jurisdiction of the court. So people are getting a lot closer, and they're getting a lot more scared, because I've seen the wins. You never hear about the wins, and when there are wins, I can tell you right now, I've personally witnessed the court files disappearing. They don't exist anymore. So people are, oh yeah, well if you won, then you'd be able to show me a court file number. Well, no, actually we can't, because the minute we do win, these things actually disappear. They're gone. We can't get transcripts. There's no court file number anymore. We can't get anything. It's just gone.
I noticed in that document that I read this morning about that Alberta case is that the one thing that stuck out in my mind is that they're using this paid gurus. And believe it or not, that could create a lot of damage, because anytime somebody's being paid for something like this, then the people can easily believe, oh, this guy's just saying this stuff about the Freeman concept because he wants to get paid. For example, I myself have received a lot of comments about other people like yourself. I'm not going to name any names here, but one specific person that he refused to help anybody unless his price was met. How do you feel about that?
Well, a couple of different things. Number one, I think it's incredibly hypocritical for a justice who's being paid and being paid handsomely, and also receiving a commission for your incarceration. Police who are being paid, and lawyers who are all being paid for their opinions and to represent you. I find it hypocritical that these people are now saying, oh, well, these gurus are charging money to say this kind of stuff. It's like, well, this is your guys' livelihood. You guys actually have your entire careers are dependent upon this legal system. and judges make millions of dollars above their wages in commissions. And for them to call out people trying to wake up, the average person is saying, well, you guys are charging people money. It's like, well, yeah. That's the first thing I would say. Number two, I'd say most of the people that are on that list that I've met personally, I have yet to ever hear one of them refer to themselves as a guru or even believe that they're a guru. So that's another kind of slander technique that the courts and the government are using against people, is to say, oh, these people that believe that they're gurus. No, I don't think any of them believe that they're gurus. I don't even think any of them think or even want to be seen as a guru. They just are trying to wake everybody else up, right? So that's another inconsistency with that. Boy, there's so many ways to go with this. I will say that if a person was to, for instance, say that you wanted to make a full-time career out of this, because you end up working a lot of hours doing this. I think I've told people many times that my company has suffered terribly from my absence for driving across the country, helping people and talking to people and doing things, trying to help people with this stuff. And we spend a lot of time on this, a lot of time. I mean, a lot of this has been 12, 15 years of studying and research and trying to find stuff and learning off other people, and there's a lot of time that goes into this. And if people that are willing to throw out $5,000, $10,000, and even $50,000 without question to a lawyer before a lawyer will even speak to you, these same people then are offended when you say, well, yeah, I got no problem helping you out, but I mean, shit, this is going to take like a week of my time. How's a couple $100 sound? Right? And then people are aghast by that. Oh, you're charging for this information? Like, they get angry about that. It's like, well, go hire a lawyer then. No lawyer is going to speak to you without $5,000 down. And I can tell you right now, if you hire a lawyer, you're screwed anyways.
I agree with you, Dean. I mean, everybody should be compensated for the efforts they do, especially in a case that's putting you out onto from your own company, your own business.
Yeah.
But I think how they see it is that, especially those people who are not going to choose to take on a lawyer because to hire a lawyer because they know that lawyers won't help them. But they see that the judges and the police officers and all the people you mentioned as people paid by the state, not necessarily out-of-pocket expense. They don't see it as it's part of your tax dollars and all that stuff. They say that at the moment right now, I'm not taking money out of my pocket and dishing it out to this one judge or to this one sheriff or this one police officer. But when it comes to Dean helping me out, I actually have to pay him. And I think that's how they're seeing it. It's wrong way of thinking, I agree, but that's how they see it, I believe.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of accusations floating out there. I mean, I've heard all sorts of stories about me, which I love. I think it's hilarious. I have yet to charge anybody a dime, ever, for anything I've done. I've had people give me a couple of $100. I have yet to ever ask for any money. I have yet to charge somebody money. And I've never in my life told somebody, I'm not going to help you unless you give me some money. Ever. In my life, once. A little chat with the boys at the border there for 6 hours in the back room there from Department of Homeland Security, and I was crossing the border with no ID other than my live birth record and one of my own personal declarations. When they told me I was being denied entry into the United States, and I asked them which one, they said, at this time you're being denied entry into the United States. And I said, which one? The democracy or the constitutionally created republic? As soon as I said that, the guy looked down and said to me, I cannot talk about that. That's because there's a number of different United States. But you don't know which one they're talking about until you ask them, okay? The United States of America, based in Washington, D.C., is a political entity that has no land base outside of the actual D.C. area, the capital there. It has no representation on land outside of that actual couple of square miles of Washington, D.C. The rest is a political affiliation. They're political contracts, which means their jurisdiction applies anywhere in the world you are, because it's like being subject to Coca-Cola law. Where does Coca-Cola physically exist? Well, maybe their head office, but outside of that, if you're an employee of Coca-Cola, wherever you are in the world, you have to abide by their statutes and policy for that corporation, or the corporation will yank your license to be one of their agents, okay? So what I'm alluding to by that is with your driver's license, when you surrender it to the United States of America, if you have an American driver's license or whatnot, again, we're talking about a political affiliation and nothing more. That's it. They don't actually physically exist anywhere on the land. Like most people that get very heavy in the common law movement start to realize real quick that once you get west of Ontario, there is no such thing as the province of Manitoba, the province of Saskatchewan, the province of Alberta, and the province of BC. They don't exist on this land. They are the seas of commerce above the land. They are a political division, no different than a sales territory for Coca-Cola. They don't exist on this land. There is no such thing on this land. Their metes and bounds were never declared. The minute you pull out ID that identifies the province of Manitoba, we're talking about a political entity that exists above the land and does not exist physically on this land. So that kind of got into it a little bit more than I intended with the driver's license, but you don't need permission to be on your own roads. They're ours, and you're free to use them until you harm somebody. Now, I'm not saying everybody should just... This is the reason why a lot of people say this system is necessary. The minute we think we can be out driving around the roads doing 1,000,000 miles an hour and crashing into people and not be liable, there's going to be chaos. Well, I disagree with that. But it is true. People should not be out there speeding and just driving like idiots thinking, well, as long as I don't harm anybody, I'm fine. Well, no, there's such a thing called endangering the public also, okay? So that I like to clarify that right away. We're supposed to be responsible. If you're claiming to be a sovereign or a free man, you have to assume all liability for your actions. You're now fully responsible for everything you do, which means no insurance company is going to be there to bail you out, which means if you harm somebody, if you don't have the money to pay them the damages, you're screwed.